Well, I just think when you go through struggles the way we're going through, our confidence isn't at an all-time high. And when things don't go the right way, especially early on in the game, it can affect, the mindset of the group. And that's been our challenge, is to try to find a way to keep some resilience, keep a competitive spirit, enthusiasm, any adjective you want to use to try to give ourselves the best chance to put our best game in the ice. We take a penalty early on in the game, give them a power play right away. They score in the power play, and they get momentum right off the bat. It's a tough way to start the game. So obviously we've got to find a way to have more resilience and be able to recover and overcome that. We just got to keep working at it.
Like earlier in the year, a lot of times you say, like, our intentions are good, right? But sometimes it looks like the details. You talk about the details of the game. Are the struggles with the details of the game impacting the intentions?
Yeah, I think right now, I think just based on our biggest challenges, our own mindset. When you're in an instinctive mindset, you're playing the game with a bit of swagger and confidence. You tend to see the game and process the game, in a timely fashion, and I think decisions come easier. I think when you're forcing it, sometimes you're trying too hard, and it can appear the appearance is the opposite, and you lose a sense of purpose with how you play. We've got to play the game hard, and that's some of the discussions we've had with the group is, playing the game with a competitive spirit and playing the game hard, being willing to skate, being willing to embrace contact, going to the hard areas, winning puck battles, things of that nature. But we have to play smart also. We've got to make sure that, we pay attention to detail, and, we work collectively as a group out there. And, I think for the first part of the season, a fair number of games, I think we were a pretty stingy team with that collective effort, especially on the defensive side of the puck. And I think we've lost a little bit of that, just attention to detail and just collective play, cooperative play as a group. It's a whole lot more difficult, to beat collective effort than it is to beat isolated effort. And I think, we're not quite connected like we were, and that's what we got to get back to.
Was that a weakness that you saw last year coaching against this team? You've been on both sides. Is it
Yeah.
similarities?
I'm not going to discuss last year. I wasn't here. It would be irresponsible of me I think to comment on last year. I can only tell you what I see here and the observations I have with this group now.
And with that, we talked about frustration, but at a certain point, do you want to see more anger from the guys? Like, you can obviously sense the frustration and maybe the lack of confidence, but not as much maybe anger.
Yeah, well, so what do you suggest and what are you implying?
Just some sort of pushback or fight. Not like physically Trumpton wasn't fighting, but
Well, when you look at the start of the second period, I thought, starting from the first shift, there was a lot of initiation of contact to start that period. For the first 5 minutes of that period, started with JT, the very first shift. If that's what you're asking, if you're implying, embracing contact, physical play. Listen, we've gone through a rash of emotions. There's been tons of anger. There's been we've run through the gamut of emotions here, trying to right this thing and get it going in the right direction. And we'll continue to try to solve it. There's no easy answers. We've got to work hard. We got to work together. We got to stick together. We got to stay together, and we got to compete together. And that's what we're going to do.
Mike, just a word on Jonathan. What did you see from his game? Or second time in 3 games that you've had it from the net. What did you think of his performance?
Yeah, it's not an easy one to evaluate, I think, and under the circumstances. Here's what I'll tell you about Quickie. He's a fierce competitor, and he gives you everything he has every day that he steps on the ice. I just have so much admiration and respect for what he brings to the table.
And on the bright side, I guess you get 2 from Gabe. You put him on the line with Mika and JT. why'd you do that, and you know, did you
Well,
like it?
I mean, obviously I liked it. I thought, you know, we stuck with it. He scores a couple of goals, but I thought the line played well from the time we made the switch. You know, I just had a sense, and you know, I've been watching this for a few games, you know, that JT and Troach weren't, you know, that line in particular wasn't clicking the way that it was, let's say, before JT got hurt. You know, we thought that line was really coming, and then, you know, JT got hurt and was out for a fair amount. And since he's been back, it's just, for whatever reason, it's been a little bit of a struggle. And so, you know, I was trying to be patient and give him a chance to play through it a little bit. But after the way that the start of the game, I felt like I needed to try to affect some change, if anything, for a mindset standpoint. And that was part of the reason why I did it. And you know, one of the reasons why I was reluctant to do it, because I thought Mika and Brett also were driving a lot of offense, and they had some consistent play. And so there were a number of reasons why, you know, we've been as patient as we have with it. But I just thought, given the way the start of the game was, that I needed to try to affect some positive change.